So you want to leave the United States or Canada. We get it. A lot of people do.
We left the United States in 2017, and our only regret is not leaving sooner.
When we first made the decision to move abroad, our biggest challenge was knowing where to start.
At first, it seemed like a logistical nightmare, but as we learned and we broke it down into small chunks, it was much more manageable.
So in this video, we're going to tell you our 7-step process for leaving the United States and moving abroad, starting with number 1, and that is choosing your destination.
The first thing you need to do is make a list of your priorities. What is the most important? What's a really nice to have? What's just a nice to have? And what is an absolute deal breaker?
For us, healthcare is a deal breaker that has to have great healthcare. That's why we chose Ecuador. Cost of living might be important to you. You might want to go someplace where English is spoken, or you might want to be close to the U.S. so you can get back home to see your friends and family more easily.
There are a lot of reasons, so obviously we do not have time to list all of them. What you need to do is research these countries and these cities that you're interested in, and a great way to do that is check out resources such as YouTube videos, International Living, World Population Review, and there are many others. And we recommend considering at least 2 or 3 destinations. We had several in mind before we narrowed it down to Ecuador. And do not forget to check out those residency visa options to make sure you can even qualify before you have your heart set on your new dream country. If they don't have a visa that will work, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, it is.
Number 2 is to get prepared. You want to calculate approximately how much money you're going to need for the move. And there are a lot of factors to consider. If you're going to ship a container, for example, that is very costly. So that's really going to jack up your costs. If you're going to buy or rent, you need to figure out what that's going to look like. A lot of places require 3 months rent, a first month, last month, and a security deposit in advance before you can take possession. There's a lot of other fees such as your visa costs, the cost to hire a visa agent or a relocation specialist, and of course your airfare.
You also want to start learning the local language for wherever you're planning on going. A lot of you are probably choosing a Spanish-speaking country. There are a lot of apps to learn Spanish and other languages like Duolingo. That's a really good free app and a great place to start. If you want to get into more of the conversational Spanish so that you can actually hear how people talk in sentences, we recommend LingoPie. You've probably seen them in several of our videos. We love them, and it's a great way to actually hear people talking the way they normally would.
Start the passport application or renewal process, especially right now because passport wait times are very long. You want to make sure you have at least 2 years remaining on your passport.
Yeah, if you don't have 2 years, you can go ahead and do an early renewal and get that done. The issue is that most of the residency visas are only 2 years, and you don't want to have to transfer your visa to a new passport number, because when you get a new passport, you get a new number. I didn't know that. And so I had to transfer my visa to the new passport, and so did Amelia. So it was kind of a pain. We wish we would have renewed those before we got our visa.
You also want to look into opening a bank account. We use Charles Schwab, but there's other ones out there that will refund you those international ATM fees. And this is important because those fees can add up quite quickly.
You also want to look for credit cards that don't charge international fees like Capital One, Chase Sapphire, Discover. None of those charge those international transaction fees. Those add up too.
WhatsApp is very popular in the rest of the world, so you need to download and have that ready to go on your cell phone before you leave your home country so that you know it is working, and get comfortable with it. It is your new best friend.
Yeah, because everybody uses it. We also recommend keeping that U.S. phone or your home phone, mobile phone number, at least for a while after you move. You also want to enable Wi-Fi calling before you leave home. You'll need to be connected to Wi-Fi and your mobile carrier network in order to activate that. And that will allow you to make calls to and from the United States, and people will be able to call you just by using your regular phone number. It's like you're still in the U.S.
This is also very important because you're going to need to be able to receive those 2-factor verification texts from your financial institutions. We've heard repeatedly that people cancel their home phone plan and then they go to their new country and they can't get those verification tests, and then they have a problem.
Yeah, they can't do any sort of financial transactions from abroad until they go back to the U.S. and can do that in person. So don't do that. Keep that number at least for a while.
Number 3 is to take an exploratory trip. You want to spend as much time as you can in your potentially new home country. However, you still want to limit where you're visiting to 1 to 3 major cities or destinations. Do not try to see the entire country in 4 days. That is way too much.
And also live like a local while you're there. That means rent a place with a kitchen so you can walk around the neighborhood, go shopping, come home, cook for yourself, and really see what it's like to live there.
It is important to learn about different areas in which you would want to live, and you can also take those neighborhood tours. We find them very helpful and a lot of fun.
Yeah, meet with other expats. You can meet them on social media before you go and set up some meetings when you get there. That way you have some friends on the ground already and you get that firsthand knowledge from people who already live there.
This is also a great time to meet with the experts, such as a visa agent, a real estate agent, or a rental agent. If you're bringing your children, which you probably should, if they're school-age children, you should go check out some schools too. And of course, yes, you're focused on what it's going to be like to live there, but make sure you are having some fun.
Number 4 is get your residency visa. That might mean you hire a visa agent to help you. Some people choose to do it on their own, and I admire those people. We are not that brave. It helps if you are fluent in the local language, but even then, a lot of these countries, it's really based on the relationship. There's a lot of government bureaucracy. You got to know how to navigate, but some people manage to get their visa on their own.
Yes, that is very impressive. You're going to need to get your documents translated and legalized, or get the apostille, depending upon what types of documents they are. And you're going to need to go ahead and order your background checks.
Yes, usually a state police report and a federal background check for the most recent place you lived in your home country. And those usually have a time limit. They're time sensitive. So make sure you know when your visa application date is, and you order the background checks with enough time to get them to where they're not expired when you need them.
This is another reason why we recommend using visa agents, because there's timing, there's all sorts of nuances involved, and our philosophy is let the experts handle it.
You also need to figure out where you're going to pick up your visa. Some countries, you cannot apply for the visa in the country. You have to apply in your home country. And others, like Ecuador, you can apply in country and pick it up in country. So you're going to have to make sure that you know where you're going to get your visa and where to apply for it.
Number 5, prepare to move. If you are living in a state that charges state income tax like we did in Colorado, you want to move your U.S. residency to a state with no income tax to minimize that tax burden so that you don't end up getting stuck paying thousands of extra dollars like we did. Don't do what we did.
No, we finally moved to Texas, so now we don't pay Colorado state tax anymore. It was thousands of dollars a year, and we hadn't even been back to Colorado in 5 years, so it made no sense to keep paying that. You also want to check with your financial institutions. You might want to open those new accounts that we talked about. Look at your credit card expiration dates, and if they expire anytime within the next 6 months or 12 months, you want to go ahead and order a new copy of those so that they don't expire while you're abroad, and then you might have challenge getting them mailed to you.
You'll also want to open a virtual mailbox. We use Traveling Mailbox. We've been with them for a long time, and we are very happy with their services. And make sure that you change all of your accounts to paperless so you aren't getting a lot of useless mail.
Yeah, it's really important to keep a U.S.-based address for voting, and also your financial institutions. A lot of them will not deal well with people who live abroad and don't have a U.S.-based address.
It definitely makes things a lot easier and much more seamless.
You might also want to check with one of your friends or family, because sometimes you have to have things physically mailed to a real person or a real address, and the virtual mailbox doesn't work for everything. We have our families get mail for us if we absolutely need to. That rarely happens, but it's nice to have them available when it does.
Put your house on the market or give notice to your landlord, depending on your timing, of course. And it's time to sell all your stuff. Get rid of it.
We had an estate sale and got rid of everything. Anything that was left over at the end, we either sold on Craigslist or donated to the Goodwill. That was quite a process and took quite a while to get everything scheduled and completed.
Yes, you need to give yourself extra time for this. Also, if you decided you're going to ship a container, that can be very time consuming. So give yourself a lot of extra time, because you have to be very specific in the documentation.
And also when it is shipped versus when you get your visa, there are time limits on there from the time you get your visa till the container needs to be delivered in your new home country. And you're going to need to work with a shipping agent to make sure that you hit all those timelines correctly.
You can go ahead and start packing for your plane ride. We came with 2 big suitcases each. Another thing you don't want to forget are your medications. We recommend bringing a 3-month supply with you.
And I guess we maybe should have mentioned this earlier. It's time to start preparing your family and friends for your exodus. A lot of them are not going to be supportive. They're going to think you're crazy, and they're going to try to talk you out of it or scare you out of it. You just need to walk them through the education process that you went through to make them feel a little bit more comfortable with your decision.
Number 6 is what to do before you leave home. And you want to continue gathering those important documents, continue with your visa documents, but also things like your birth certificate, marriage license, your wills, any other important documents, medical history, that's really important.
Yeah, the doctors here will not have access to medical records in the U.S. Even other doctors in the U.S. rarely have access to those. So you want to bring all of those with you. We recommend on a thumb drive and hard copies as well if you can.
You can also go ahead and sign up for health insurance if you need that, if that is a requirement in your new home country. Doesn't hurt to get that started before you leave.
And you want to make your final travel plans. That includes airfare, lodging, ground transportation from the airport. If you have a bunch of luggage, you're probably not going to want to hail a small cab or a tuk-tuk, depending on where you're going.
If you're bringing your pets with you, make sure you are carefully checking those timelines. The shots are kind of tricky because you have to actually have them closer to the time you're leaving for your new home country. You can go to the APHIS USDA website, and they have information for all the different countries available and the paperwork online that you can download, and you can find the right veterinarians to connect with so that you can get all your paperwork done properly.
We're going to put links to everything we talk about in this, all the services we use, including the APHIS website. So check below for a link to our blog for that information.
Yes, because this is a lot of information. Also, this is the time to finalize your packing and get rid of any other stuff that you do not want to take with you.
Number 7, and our final step, is getting settled in your new home abroad. Is such an exciting time. Once you're in your new short-term lodging, it's time to start looking for a long-term home. That probably won't take that long, and try not to have the scarcity mentality because there's a lot of places out there and the perfect spot is bound to open up for you.
You're also going to want to get your government-issued ID. In Ecuador, it's called a cédula, but it might be something else in your new home country.
And check into opening a bank account. We actually didn't open a local bank account until like 2 or 3 years after we moved to Ecuador. We didn't actually need it. We just used our Charles Schwab ATM card to get cash. We used credit cards for everything and actually didn't have a need for it, but we finally got one and it was a painless process.
And we also have a local phone number, which we did almost immediately after we moved to Ecuador, which we highly recommend because it just makes it easier to communicate.
And finally, join some events, go to some activities. There are a lot of Facebook groups for expats in all the different areas around the world that are popular with expats. And a lot of times they will post activities where you can go meet other people and make new friends in your home away from home.
We have all these tasks in our new Move Abroad checklist, and you may want to check out that expat country selector if you have not already chosen a country.
Check below for a link. Once you sign up for our free weekly newsletter, you get immediate access to these 2 downloads plus several other perks we think you'll enjoy.
We hope you found this video helpful, and we hope you have an unconventional day.
Ciao.
Ciao.